Right, I'm Nigel. I'm the chairman of the Abergavenny Food Festival. My background is that in a previous life before I retired about 10 years ago, I was a director of Waitrose, and that was in the very early days of the Abergavenny Food Festival. In its second year, one of the founders turned up in my office in Bracknell and said, I think it'd be a great idea if Waitrose sponsored the Abergavenny Food Festival. And I thought it was a great idea because I was trying to build a store in Abergavenny at the time and I had a bit of a slush fund. And I carried on sponsoring it for about 8 years, retired and found myself living in Abergavenny because suddenly I'd made all these chums. And the rest is history, really. I retired, they asked me to join the board. I kept the sponsorship going for 1 year and then they said, OK, Nigel, you've had it for 8 years. And then about 6 years ago, they asked me to chair the festival. I'm also on the board of what used to be the old South East Wales Tourist Board, which is now called Capital Region Tourist Board. I had never really thought of the Abergavenny Food Festival as a tourist attraction. We thought of it as a food event, and our strapline was all about food. It was started by 2 local farmers in response to foot and mouth and BSE as a way of trying to sort of develop a bit of a food industry to try and create confidence in farming and in food. And they set out with some aims and objectives. I mean, to celebrate food, to celebrate craft in production, conviviality, diversity, quirky style, social purpose, to be a major event to attract visitors to Abergavenny and the Welsh Marches, to promote locally produced foods, to increase local awareness of food hospitality, to create links between town and country, to educate about food issues and farming, and to build a profile as a region that had bloody good food produced and to eat and drink. We sort of became a national brand by accident. We developed a strong reputation in the food world through credibility and the sort of passion through our connections with producers and chefs and restaurants and the media and magazines and publishers and public. And it didn't happen overnight. It took a long time engaging. But you can see up there some of our sponsors, partners. Waitrose, for example, I still have connections, obviously. We run competitions. The Food Festival runs competitions in the Waitrose weekly newspaper, which has a circulation of about 1 million people. We run competitions with the My Waitrose card holders, which is 2 million people. So we run a competition for a weekend in a hotel in Abergavenny for the Food Festival, and we get out to 3 million Waitrose customers. Now, it sort of happens that the profile of our Food Festival customers are very much ABC ones, very similar to Waitrose customers. But we built relationships with people like Chase Distillery, starting when they were Tyrrell's Crisps, and they launched their crisps, and they came to us as a small producer. They sold the crisp business a few years ago, and now they make fantastic spirits. The Organic Centre Wales sponsors our education activities. Brindisa Spanish Foods, talk about those a bit later. So we've got a brand. Our audience is about 300,000 and growing. They come from Wales, they come from the UK, they come from abroad. I've said they're ABC1. High percentage of repeat visits, strong loyalty, families rather than people on their own, with a willingness to spend. We're a not-for-profit company, limited by guarantee. We have a chief executive and a management team of 8 permanent part-time people, rising to about 100 during the actual festival, which is only 2 days. But it builds up sort of July, August, September. It costs about £350,000 to put on, of which £150,000 is wages, and that all gets spent in the local authority. They spend about 4 million quid in Abergavenny over that 2-day weekend. We do quite a lot of market research. We have about 45,000 hits on our website. 69% of our visitors are new visitors, although we have a 50% return rate. 56% said Abergavenny was the only food festival they visited. They come, 92% come because they like the food stalls and shopping, 40% because they like the celebs, 80% for the atmosphere, 20% for the events, 5% to network. What's important to them is it's a rural location, 60%, 75% the size of the event, 65% good weather. We've only had rain once in 15 years on the third weekend in September, which is brilliant. Quality produce, 95%, parking, 70%, chef's dem, 65%, street performers, 45%, children's events, 30%. Age profile, 26 to 65 represents about 80%. They spend, the high spend, £132 on average, low spend, 61, average, 65% spend between £20 and £100, 20% spend between £100 and £250. We've got a festival guide which is free with tickets. We have 220 stalls with 180% producers, 63% of which are Welsh. Some of our venues, Market Hall, we have five venues which are wristbanded, stroller ticket, Market Hall, chef's dems in the Market Hall, they come within the price of the ticket, shopping in the Market Hall, the Brewery Yard and the Priory Centre, another venue, rear of the Market Hall, mainly shopping, bars, food to eat, street food. The Priory Centre, courtyard, 2 courtyards there, a fish market in one and a souk in the other where we let very small traders come, £50 for a table, £25 to share a table. The castle, we've got a lovely old castle in Abergavenny. This is sort of the family place. This is where kids love getting cardboard boxes and sliding down the ramparts. But we have lots of family events there. We've got the Dome, which is our kids' cooking area. We run cooking with kids continuously for 2 days. We also run an education program. We have a competition for the local schools where they get some seeds to grow something. They have to grow it, cook it, eat it. We have live animals. We had a cow this year so people could try raw milk. The Food Academy I've talked about. Val Warner was one of our judges this year. Grow it, eat it, cook it. Kids love it. One year it was a sausage. One year it was a ploughman's lunch. They even had to grow the corn to make the bread, that sort of stuff. Kate Humble, who's a local farmer as far as we're concerned, as well as doing all our television stuff, does a lot of comparing for us. Kids cooking. And then on the Saturday night at the castle, we have a fantastic party with fireworks, lots of food to eat, lots of fun, lots of music, more food to eat, fabulous fireworks at the end. On the Thursday night before the festival, we have a fanfare dinner for the local community, for local people. It's kept fairly cheap price. We've got a food, you can see the fantastic decorations, these big fruits. The year before, they were game birds. Every year they change. We've got an Arts Alive group in Abergavenny, and we pay them to make these fantastic decorations, which then stay up throughout the year as a tourist attraction. We have a sponsor and funders reception on the Saturday night. About 250 funders, sponsors. They get to meet the celebs. It's a way of saying thank you. Have some quite interesting people there. Some of our guest performers last year, Cyrus Toddywaller. Cyrus has been coming to the Abergavenny Food Festival, I think, for 10 years. He just turns up every year and says, "What can I do this year, Nige?" He brings his big wagon and sells fantastic Indian food. Ham School Brindisi. We're building relationships with international organisations. We started in Puglia a few years ago, where a Puglian food festival said they wanted to bring some Italian producers to Abergavenny Food Festival. We thought it was a great idea to create an international stage. As a result of that, the Puglians then invited us to go back to Puglia with some Welsh producers. So I went and talked to the Welsh government and said, this is a great idea, great opportunity to take some Welsh producers to Italy, to try and develop an export market. And then I realised, actually, you're not going to sell charcuterie to the Italians. So we actually turned it into a tourist event, and we took a bunch of Monmouthshire producers to this food festival in Puglia. We had a nice stand there. We arranged some visits, so the James Swift from the charcuterie went to visit some charcuters, some cheese people. We made some exchanges. And what we were actually doing, we were saying to the 70,000 Italians at this food festival, hey guys, why don't you come to Wales? It's a fantastic place to come on. We've got mountains, we've got rivers, we've got lakes, we've got, ancient history, all sorts of stuff. And by the way, when you come, this is the quality of food you're going to eat. So this year, we're doing it with Brindisi. Brindisi have got a relationship with La Boqueria in Barcelona. So this year, we had a bunch of Spanish producers from the Boqueria. And next year, we're taking a bunch of Welsh producers to go to that fantastic food market in the Boqueria in Barcelona to promote Wales as a tourist attraction through the fantastic food we have. So we had Brindisi, who are arranging all of that, come and do some demonstrations on ham. We've got Tom Kerridge, the proper food. Now, Stephen Gates, do you know Stephen Gates? Have you seen Stephen Gates' Incredible Edibles? Stephen is amazing. He does fantastic stuff with food. He's got a children's program. And I introduced him in the Borough Theatre, which is 350 seats, of which 200 were kids. And I said to Stephen, how do you want me to introduce you? He said, go on the stage and say, in a minute, this strange guy called Stephen Gates is going to come out. He's going to do some amazing things with food. If you're vegetarian or you have allergies, don't eat it. And then Stephen bounces out, and this is a great way to engage. He squats down on the stage. He said, my name's Stephen. What's your name? And 200 kids shout their names. Sorry, just unplug myself. That's the sort of fun we have. Some more of our samplers. This year we got Magnus Nielsen. He has the restaurant at the end of the universe, somewhere up in the Arctic Circle, where he has about 12 covers and he buries reindeer for 3 months and he goes and gets ants and all sorts of amazing stuff like that. And he had an interesting conversation with Val Warner. There's some really interesting things happen with the food festival. Val Warner, again, is one of our regular customers. He keeps coming. And these guys come, but not because we pay them, because we don't. They come because their mates come. It's the place where a lot of the celebs like to come because they meet each other. And they also, we didn't realise, but they also find new products for their restaurants. So Val Warner, 2 years ago, got invited to be the visiting chef for Pizza Express. And because he'd met my chum James Swift, who runs Treely Charcuterie in Monmouthshire, he used Treely Charcuterie on the pizzas. So there's a whole other area of the food festival which is commercial. We get visits from the food buyers from Fortnum and Mason, and Selfridges and Harrods, who are coming to look for new products. So, there's a whole different area there as well that we've only really just become aware of. I keep learning new things about this monster of a festival, that is so complicated and works on so many different levels. But I'm going to finish in a minute, so you've got 15 minutes to tease out of me the stuff that you're really interested in. We also run a one-day Christmas fair. We wanted to extend what we do. It's quite small. It's about 3 weekends, three Sundays before Christmas. It's usually quite cold. Quite often snows now because of any around then. But again, it's in the market hall. This year we had a Sweetie Fest cocktail party. We had this great girl come and make cocktails out of sweets, so you had the banana custard cocktail and the minty cocktails, great. And then during the weekend, we awarded a Sweetie Hero Award. We get lots of profile and media coverage because we get all these celebs come. The media tend to follow them. So these are just some of the people that turn up You know, we have a green room where we entertain the celebs, we entertain the media, we lay on local food, we make sure they know it's local food. So we get fantastic media coverage. And I like these quotes. My favourite ones are the top one. If food is the new rock and roll and chefs are its gods, the Abergavenny Food Festival has to be the new Glastonbury. And Abergavenny, that was somebody in The Observer. Joanne Blytheman from The Observer said a couple of years ago, Abergavenny is to food as Cannes is to film, an annual festival for spotting rising stars in Britain, Britain's artisan food firmament. I mean, that's pretty impressive, I thought. And last year was a great year for us. We won 2 major awards. We got the National Tourism Award for Wales for the best event in Wales, which is pretty good when you think that, you know, there's the RAC Rally, there's the National Ice Stedford, you know, lots of stuff like that. And we won the Monmouthshire Business Award for excellence in environmental and sustainability, because we're pretty hot on that. We try to get really, really good on refuse disposal, control, that sort of stuff. We got the award because we do it because we want to do it, whereas all the other entrants did it because they had to do it, because they're companies and they have to comply. So that's us, that's what we're about. But I'm much more interested to hear what you have to say and what you might want to tease out of all of that, because it works on so many different levels. It works as a tourist event, attracting 35,000 people, spending 4 million quid. You know, it works for the community, it works for the local hospitality. You can't, somebody told, a hotelier told me the other day, they had a phone call on Saturday last week, can I book a room for the food festival? She said, what, 2015? No, 2000, no, sorry, we're already booked. Because most people book when they're leaving. This year, they book for next year. So, you know, we need a new hotel, but hey. So questions, please. Comments?
Nigel, that was very interesting. My name is Geraldine from Tourism Ireland, and obviously food is very important too. Yeah. Food is very important to our overseas visitors. So I'm interested to know, out of the 35,000 visitors who attended your festival last year, what percentage would have come from overseas? And B, whether your activity in Italy has brought many Italians to the area?
I can't answer that because we haven't done the research. We hear foreign voices, you know, we talk to as many people as we can. You know, I've spoken to people from Australia, from California, from Canada. We appeared on the front page of the Toronto Daily Star a couple of years ago. So obviously there was a journalist from Canada, but we haven't actually measured that. We do sort of market research every year. We haven't captured that many foreigners yet, you know, but hopefully we will.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of accommodation, what is the accommodation base? How many people can you accommodate in the area, or do they go out into other outlying villages?
They have to spread out, really. Yeah. I mean, Abergavenny has got one major hotel, good quality hotel. It's got a couple of smaller hotels, 2-star rather than 4-star. It's got a lot of bed and breakfast accommodation. But we have other places close by. We've got Crickhowell, which has got 3 hotels. We've got the Celtic Manor, which is only half an hour down the road. And Celtic Manor was where they had the Ryder Cup, so they've got 350 rooms. We have a relationship with the Celtic Manor. We do cross-promotion, that sort of thing. You know, they will lay on coaches from the Celtic Manor to bring people. We've got Hereford's only half an hour up the road. You know, so we've got quite a lot of caravan parks. This year we'll probably go into glamping for the first time. We've identified a site. We've identified some glamping company that's going to bring some tents. But accommodation is a problem for us.
Thank you.
Sharon Scott. I'm a private consultant, but I'm very interested to hear more about your startup of your food festival. I think that's very relevant here in Northern Ireland, as to how you galvanised that support and how you initially started up.
I wasn't there in year 1 and 2. It was started by a couple of farmers, but they weren't your ordinary farmers. They were both graduates. One spends most of his time in third world countries, helping them find water. And the other one has an ice cream. Well, he had a sheep business. He used to make ice cream out of sheep's milk, and he had a flock of sheep, and he has a cafe, and he gave up breeding sheep, and now he buys it all in. And they set up the festival. Rumour has it that they actually wanted to start a music festival, but didn't think they'd get away with it. And I've never pinned them down on that, because they're still around. And they sort of smile knowingly when you say that. But they started it ostensibly because it was a time when Abergavenny itself was suffering a bit. It was a rural community. It had been very badly hit by foot and mouth and BSE because it's a farming community. You know, the market had been closed for 12 months, and the market was the lifeblood of the town. You know, so there were some real deprivation issues. And of course, we're not quite in the South Wales valleys, but we actually feel like a valley town. And we are the sort of, people come out of the valleys to Abergavenny. So it's also the time when the valleys were being badly hit, you know, when their economy was very bad. So they started it for two reasons, really. One for food and farming, and one for regeneration of the town. And they started in a very small way. It was a Sunday. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and about 3,000 people turned up. And then year two, it grew a little bit, and they moved it to 2 days. And then the interesting thing that happened was that Martin, one of the founders, who until this year was the program director, had that innate ability to actually attract people in the foodie world to come to Abergavenny. And it's a bit like Topsy, you know, a bit of it, some of it is the location. I mean, you go to Abergavenny, and Abergavenny describes itself as a town of markets, mountains and more, because it's a market town, it's surrounded by mountains, you know, the scenery is fantastic, and it's got this great Victorian market, which I showed you a picture of. And Martin managed to get some interesting of his mate, chefy people, and of course, we've also got some fantastic restaurants around Abergavenny. You know, we've got the Walnut Tree, we've got the Hardwick, we've got the Fox Hunter. And people say to me quite often, what came first, you know, the restaurants or the food festival? Well, actually, what came first was Franco, who opened this fabulous Italian restaurant called the Walnut Tree about 25, 30 years ago. Franco was involved in starting the food festival. Franco knew lots of the London chefs. He trained with them, they trained with him, whatever. So he was able to bring them. So it's the combination of that. It's the combination of having some good small producers in Wales that we were able to sell their goods. So, and it wasn't even thought of as a tourist attraction. It was actually a foodie thing, you know, and it sort of grew. And by the time I got involved in year 3, you know, it was quite big. Waitrose came along as the principal sponsors. We put up about, I don't know, £20,000 in the first year. And that year we went to the castle, which we'd never used before, and we had a big Waitrose marquee in the castle, and we did cooking for kids and all that sort of stuff. So, and that was really the start of the growth. And I guess that word just spread, you know, that people liked it so much that they came back and they told their friends. But it was very, very small, very humble beginnings with, I think, £5,000 grant from the local council, basically. Does that answer the question?
Hi there, Lindsay Curran from Food NI. It's sort of a two-pronged question. In terms, it's Abergavenny Food Festival. Do you have any sort of criteria in terms of where your exhibitors and food providers come from?
Absolutely.
And so there's that in terms of region and distance, and then also in terms of quality. How do you ensure that the quality is kept high?
Yeah, we have about 400 applicants for 220 stalls. So we look at them all very carefully. We don't want 100 stalls selling jams, and you could easily have that. If you know, a lot of small producers are in jams and pickles and that sort of stuff. We we were getting money from the Welsh Government, and one of the conditions of getting that money was that we had 75% of our producers were Welsh. We're actually on the borders. We're only 12 miles from the Herefordshire border. So we're the Welsh Marches in Herefordshire. So a lot of our local producers are actually in Herefordshire, some in Gloucestershire. We're very close to the southwest. Actually, we can't get 75% Welsh producers because we don't have that many. There aren't that many. This is the trouble that want to come. And it's quite hard for some small Welsh producers from North Wales to come. They would have to have accommodation overnight because we're a 2-day festival. It's quite expensive if you're very small. But there is another big festival there are 2 big festivals in Wales. There's Conway in the north and us in the south, and we tend to work together. So they look after most of the small North Wales producers, and we look after the small South Wales producers. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 venues where we have food stalls, some indoors, some outdoors. So we have we keep the fish market separate. We keep the soup for the very small producers separate. The rest we try. It's a bit like running a supermarket. It's in the old days when I was in the supermarket business that you want to get the associations of product right. You want to get the right people. We've learned over the past. I've got 2 producers on the board, and they say to me, Nigel, if you get complaints from producers, don't beat yourself up because they've either got the wrong product or the wrong price or they don't know how to sell. And and I walk around and I look at the people we've got, and I know the ones that are going to complain. I know that every year there's one cider maker who has bottles of cider in packs of 4, cardboard boxes, and he stands behind his stall like this for 2 days. He never engages with anyone. I know he's not going to bloody sell anything, and you're not going to buy a 4-pack of cider to carry around for 2 days, are you? So, we try quite hard to get quality, get a mixture, get some of our regular customers like Black Mountain Smokery, like Patchwork Pate from North Wales, like Treely products, because they are, I know they take 10 or 20,000 pounds over the weekend, and I know that they are big attractors to people. So we want those, but we want the little ones as well. We start with some quite small producers who grow with us, but we do quite a bit of research. They have to fill in quite a long form about what they do, their product quality, that sort of stuff. We make mistakes sometimes. Sometimes we miss some good ones, and other times we get some bad ones. But we live and learn, and we have a little independent committee that actually decides all of that, rather than the executive doing it. But it is that is one, and also it's not giving them the same spot in the same place every year, because then because some spaces are more expensive than others. And then they say, they've got a prime. Why do they always get a prime spot? Why don't I never get that spot? So we tend to move them around a bit as well. That's some of the complications. There was somebody over here. Here, yeah. We've got 1 minute, 58 seconds.
Sorry, it's Michelle also from Food NI. Was Abergavenny famous for any particular foodstuffs, or has the region got any reputation in any particular area?
No, not really. No, sheep. There's a lot of sheep around Abergavenny. I've got some. Not a lot of cattle. There's a company been around for a long time called Abergavenny Fine Foods, which is basically a cheese maker. But no, it didn't really have a food reputation. I think we've developed that. Really, we've grown that. As Monmouthshire didn't really. But since Foot and Mouth and BSE, a lot of farmers have had to diversify, and a lot have actually diversified into adding value. I keep talking about Treely. Treely were farmers, and then they started concentrating on pig production, and then they started turning that into charcuterie, and they don't even grow their own pigs anymore. They buy the pigs in to make the charcuterie. So business has developed. But there are quite, I like to think that a lot of them have happened because of the food festival. They've seen an opportunity. Monmouthshire now calls itself the food capital of Wales, but according to the minister, there's about 10 counties in Wales that call themselves the food capital of Wales. So it's pretty meaningless, really. Yeah.
Hi, Wendy Kane, Belfast City Council. Thank you for the presentation, really interesting. It's the £300,000 budget you have to put it on. I just wanted to get a bit more information on where that comes from, the breakdown.
The what,
and
sorry?
The £300,000.
350,000.
350 to
Yeah.
put the festival on, and how that's broken down, percentage of marketing. I know you mentioned staff costs,
Yeah.
but just some more detail on that. And also the restaurants in the area, do they really get involved in it? The restaurants in the area, do they really get involved in the festival?
Yeah.
And do they? Is there anything else that they do
Yeah.
in addition to get people into their restaurants?
Yeah. To answer the first question, £350,000 is our income. We aim to sort of do slightly better than break even, so that we've got some rainy day money just in case it does rain one year. So we built up some quite good reserves. Most years we make a small profit, but our budget is to break even, and then if we make a profit, it's a bonus. So our income is 350,000. That comes from a combination of ticket sales, because we have the stroller tickets, which vary in price depending on 1 day, 2 day. We hold them at last year's, we sell online. If you buy them online up until the 1st of September, they're last year's price. And then after the 1st of September, they go up. So that at least you say to people it's the same price as last year. And then we have 50 individually ticketed events with celeb chefs, demonstrations, talks, that sort of stuff. And those are a bit more expensive. They're quite cheap. They're 7 or 8 quid, compared with some festivals where it's 20, 30, 40 quid. So we keep the price down. So some of the majority of our income comes from that. A little bit of funding. We used to get 50,000 a year from the Welsh Government, but that's gone now. So we're lucky if we get 5 or 6 now. And sponsorship. We work quite hard on sponsorship. And a lot of that is, we don't have one major sponsor anymore. We have lots of local sponsors, both in kind and in money. We don't get any money out of the local authority, but we get venues, we get staff, we get buses, we get all that sort of stuff. So we get a lot of in kind. So that's the funding. The spend is about 125,000 on wages, and the rest is on goods and services. It's hiring marquees, tents, stalls, that sort of stuff. Electronic equipment, screens, whatever we need. And most of that goes locally. As far as the local businesses are concerned, the restaurants and the hotels are obviously very, very engaged. We run a fringe program that's up to about 2 weeks beforehand. We don't actually run it. We used to run it, but we said, no, we're running the festival, not the fringe. So we actually produce a fringe program which people feed into us. And this is to give local businesses and local community organisations the opportunity to take advantage of the food festival. So we don't sell tickets for them. They have to apply direct, but there is a program. And that will be anything from in the program will be the Angel Hotel promoting its teas. There's a couple of restaurants that in the run-up to the festival actually have special events. They might get a celeb chef to come and do. There's one that always does a fish week. And at the moment we're in discussions with Monmouthshire County Council about turning the fringe is a bit old-fashioned now. Fringe, you think of Edinburgh. So we're thinking now that we're going to develop that into the Monmouthshire Food Week, or maybe the Monmouthshire Food Fortnight, to enable any foodie businesses in Monmouthshire to get engaged in the run-up to the food festival, which might extend people's stays. We might get people from a tourist point of view coming a week early because there are other events going on. They do it in Hampshire, has a sort of a Hampshire Food Fortnight. They don't have a festival, they just have this food fortnight. So we're looking at the possibility of doing that, and Monmouthshire have got a bit of Rural Development Fund money that they're putting into investigating that. So I hope we're going to do that this year, and that will. So it's not just restaurants and hotels, but local food producers could have open days and things like that. So that's where we're going. I think we've got to stop there, have we? Sorry.